Welcome back. It's 13 and a half after the hour here on 420 Radio. And today for Behind the Headlines, we want to talk about a story we brought you yesterday, how the de Blasio administration in New York City is calling for an end to low-level marijuana arrests, replacing them instead with a summons-only ticket. Now, just for some background on this, understand that New York State has been a decriminalized marijuana state since 1977. But the cops have been getting around this since the 1990s under a practice called stop and frisk. The idea behind it is that cops would frisk down most often, young Black and Latino men, and when they could feel a pipe or a bag of weed in their pocket, ask them to then empty their pockets. These young people often don't know that they don't have to empty their pockets. They have a Fourth Amendment right against illegal police searches. So they often just empty their pockets. And then once the marijuana is in plain view, that's an arrestable misdemeanor. So it's been a trick that the New York Police Department has used to, at the top of the Giuliani administration, getting up to around 50,000 arrests per year under this. I'm sorry, that was under Bloomberg, 50,000 arrests per year under Bloomberg. So typically, what would happen when someone got this possession in public view is they'd be handcuffed, they'd be taken to the precinct, they'd be held for however long it takes to get them fingerprinted and photographed, and then they would get transferred to a jail cell anywhere from a day or two, 24 to 48 hours, before they would then be brought before a judge. And if you've got a job, being in jail for a day or two can cost you your job. It can have all sorts of consequences. So this has been escalating. It started around the time of Mayor Giuliani. It continued during Michael Bloomberg. And now with the de Blasio administration, the Marijuana Arrest Research Project has shown that the arrest pattern continues, despite de Blasio and the NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly calling for an end to this and telling the police to stop this stop and frisk practice. Back in 2011, they tried to address this at the state level. The legislators in Albany proposed legislation to stop the arrest, but that never got anywhere at the state level. Oftentimes, these police unions, these prison guard unions and such, they lobby heavily to gum up the works, if you will, in a state legislature, so that never happens. In 2013, Bloomberg, as he was mayor, was announcing a change in the arrest policy, but what would happen is instead of they would still do the arrest, but they would process the person at the precinct and let him go with a desk appearance ticket rather than holding him in jail for a day or two and bringing him before the judge. So that's a nice change, but it wasn't good enough. We went from about 50,000 marijuana arrests in New York City in 2010 to about 30,000 arrests by 2013. So a great move. It's great that we have fewer arrests, but still far too many in a state that's decriminalized. So as he was running for mayor, Bill de Blasio called for an end to this arrest procedure that was going on in New York City. But again, the latest data show that nothing has really changed under de Blasio. So he finally has gotten so much pressure from activists and from the media that they made this sweeping announcement. Under 25 grams, they were no longer going to arrest. It was just going to be a summons ticket. But there's still some problems with this. And I wanted to point this out. This is Gabriel Sayegh. He's from the Drug Policy Alliance, and he wrote this in the New York Daily News. And he pointed out that there's still some significant problems that this does not address with respect to the racial disparity of marijuana enforcement in New York City. First, it does nothing to address the gross, unwarranted racial disparities associated with marijuana arrests in New York City. Right? They're still going to be enforcing these summons, these tickets and so forth more heavily in East Harlem than they're going to be on the Upper East Side. So we haven't really changed anything with respect to that. Second, the policy does nothing to change illegal searches, the pat-downs, the stop and frisks. The stop and frisk now might lead to a ticket, might lead to and again, we're not talking about a decriminalization ticket where there's a civil offense and no fine. We're talking about a summons to appear in court on these charges. So it doesn't do anything to change the illegal search problem. And the policy may inadvertently hide the racial disparity in the enforcement. because data on marijuana arrests are reported through a centralized statewide system. We can get those numbers. But data on marijuana summons is, according to Sayegh, notoriously limited, and there is no effective reporting system. As the NYPD commissioner himself noted in this week's press conference, because of these limits, the public will now not know whether or not racial disparities persist in the summons as they have in the arrests. And that's disconcerting. And Gabriel points out what I would say about this. What they're doing in New York is literally the very least they can do with respect to this. I mean, it's good that they're ending the arrest, that there's no more handcuffs, no more fingerprints, no more mugshots, no more jail time. That's great. But it just doesn't go far enough, especially in a city where there's overwhelming support for legalization. These are some of the inconsistencies we're going to find as some of these more reticent states are slowly lurching toward legalization. We're going to find these situations where they try to do things to make things better, and in some cases, they may actually make it worse. It's up to us as activists to work hard to create the political landscape where, at least by 2016, major blue states like New York are going to be forced to